Hey everyone, I'm glad you made it to this section of the course where we will be learning all about multiplication. To recap, so far we've covered addition and also subtraction. Or maybe you just decided to skip those sections because all you needed was some practice on multiplication, which is completely fine. When I started creating this course, I created each section as a standalone section so you can browse whatever topic you need the most help in. But just in case you do need a refresher in addition or subtraction, just know those sections are available to you and will definitely give you the help you need. And if you have any questions about anything, you can just send me a message and I'd be glad to help. So what will we be learning in this section exactly? First, I would like to give you an introduction to multiplication where I will explain the concept of multiplication, why it's important, and how it's useful. Then, I will break down the multiplication table for you entirely, followed by us doing a good amount of multiplication problems so that you can have a good understanding of how to multiply. Great. We have a lot of good things to cover, so let's get started. Your first question, right from the start, is probably what is multiplication? Multiplication is simply a shortcut for addition. And you're probably wondering, why do I need a shortcut when I can just add? And that's a great question. Well, when you're dealing with small numbers, it's great to count and use addition, but when you start dealing with larger numbers, multiplication always saves the day. And in this section, we will see how and why multiplication is so beneficial. So let's see a visual example of how multiplication is a shortcut for addition. Let's say you have three circles and we're going to add three more circles, plus again, three circles. So in total, we have three groups of three. And from the previous problems we worked in the previous section, I'm sure you know how to add these three groups. But just as a refresher, let's see how it's done. And this is where you'll see the comparison between addition and multiplication. And just as I said a moment ago, it's a shortcut for addition. So let's add these three groups. 3 plus 3 is going to give us 6. And we have 3 at the end to add to our 6. So let's bring it down and we add 3 plus 6, which is going to give us 9. And if that's a bit confusing, you can simply pause the video and count the blue circles one by one, and you'll see we have a total of 9. So that was the long way to find out how much we have in total through addition. But now let's see how multiplication is the shortcut for addition. We have three groups of 3. So in multiplication, we say 3 times 3, which is going to give us 9. Great. Anytime you see multiplication, you can break it down into addition, but that would take up a lot of time. But in this section, we'll continue to practice multiplication till you master multiplying. So let's look at another example with smaller numbers so you can have a better understanding of what's going on. So let's say we have three groups of 2, or as we would say in multiplication, 3 times 2, because we have three sets of two circles, but it can be pencils, cars, bikes, or even numbers. So let's break it down as we did before so you can see what occurs when we multiply. So here we can see we have three sets of 2. Let's add our first 2, which is going to give us 4. Then we bring down our remaining 2, which we add with our 4, and it's going to give us a total of 6, which is the same as using our multiplication shortcut and say 3, which represents the number of groups or sets, 1, 2, 3, times 2, which is what the groups are made of, which is going to equal 6. I want you to keep in mind that in multiplication, it doesn't matter if you say 3 times 2 or 2 times 3. The answer is still the same, 6. Great. I know that may be a lot to take in, and if you don't fully understand what's going on, please bear with me and keep watching. I can assure you that after all the practice we'll be doing, you'll understand what multiplication is, and you'll be able to solve any multiplication problem. Next, We will be going over the multiplication table, which is going to give you a good foundation and help you understand the whole concept of multiplication. But first, let me give you three main rules that are good to know when multiplying. The first rule is anything multiplied by 0 equals 0. In other words, when you multiply any number against 0, your answer is going to be 0. For example, 0 times 2 equals 0 because there are 0 groups or sets of numbers. So 0 times 100 equals 0 and 0 times 54 equals 0. Rule number 2. Anything multiplied by 1 equals the same number you are multiplying 1 by. So for example, 1 times 2 is 2 because we have one set of 2, so therefore your answer is 2. Another example, 1 times 267 equals 267. 1 times 389 is going to equal 389. Great. And for our last rule, before we conclude this video, is anything multiplied by 11 is that number twice up to 9. And we'll see exactly what this means when we get to the 11th timetable, but for now, let's see a few examples. So 11 times 3 equals 33. 11 times 5 equals 55. And 11 times 7 equals 77. I know this may be a lot to take in, but I can assure you, if you continue watching and working with me, you will become very good at multiplication, especially after we learn our multiplication tables, which is going to start next. So I look forward to seeing you there.